Carlos Nelson with Cascade Sports. We're here today with one of the top coaches in Kansas City. He is Brandon Burgette over there at KCK Junior College. They just won their national championship, and before that, Brandon brought his conference championship home for the first time in KCK's history. Welcome to the show, Brandon.
Appreciate you having me.
Hey, Brandon, talk to our audience about your first year coaching over there at KCK and what that ride was like. Really, what was your mindset when you got the job, and the team that you did you put this team together, or did you inherit the team?
I inherited 4 returners at the time that I got the job. I had 10 guys on the roster. 6 were already being recruited as freshmen, and then I ended up signing 5 guys along with the guys that Kelly had, previously brought on the team. So when I first got the job, obviously, a lot of excitement, a lot of work that needed to be done as far as just building a culture, starting brand new, getting the guys that were returning to mold over into a new system and being able to gel with 15 new players. Starting off, it was a rough battle just because you're trying to get 15 guys to learn, and a new coach, learn each other, learning how to play together, learning how to gel, learn a new system, and being a team. I think when you first start any job, the first thing you do is just try to be comfortable with everything you do. I think that comfort zone with just building a relationship with the players were my biggest focus at the time, and just not focus on how can we win, how can we lose. What do we need to do to be successful? The biggest thing was just trying to teach them how to play the right way and be good teammates and play for each other.
And talking about the transformation of your team, the system that they were used to playing under, I talked to 2 or 3, but they were high school coaches that Central's coach, Rob Lucas, his first year, bringing a district championship to how the buy-in with the players. How important was that they bought into what you were bringing to the table?
I think it's very important at the junior college level, because when guys come to the junior college level, they have a mindset that I'm trying to be recruited. And I know that's the number one goal, and that's your focal point, but at the same time, you got to be a line of things to be able to be in that recruitment spotlight for coaches that want you. You're talking a good person, a good student, a good athlete, body language, attitude, on the floor, off the floor. There's just so many things that you have to learn that doesn't even contain dribbling the basketball to be able to be recruited. And at the same time, you got to be a winner. Coaches like good character kids, but they also want guys that are going to win. And I think that was the biggest thing coming in, because the returners never won. They had a losing record, had a losing season. 3 of the guys out of the 4 barely played, so they didn't get much time. So coming in as a sophomore, obviously, as a coach, you think that's where your leadership is going to come from. They had to learn how to play too, and learn how to win and play with each other. So those are some big things that guys don't realize when you come to a junior college.
When you came out of school, how, and things, we interviewed you, and what was the other gentleman's name? Quentin Day, and we talked about that at one of the high school tournaments. How different was it on character base and some of the things that you just expounded on in your day? Was that more important than the actual talent of the kid versus now? I think from my point of view, character and some of the things that you mentioned, your grades and things like that, they're just on the same level as your skill set. And I don't think when I came out in '68 and '69, it was more could you play?
Right.
How important is that now to an athlete to rise to the next level?
I think it's very important. Like we talked about a couple of weeks ago, the character issue was really big because we were, disciplined, yes or no sort of type of players. We really listened and bought into what coaches would say because we knew their vision. I think now is more of a talent base to where guys have that mindset that they have it, and then they don't think about the character aspect of things just because they're used to being told that they're very good a lot. And that's not a bad thing.
Right.
But at the same time, I don't think they trust in people at the higher rank and, with a lot of credibility of what they've done in their body of work. Growing up, there wasn't much social media. There wasn't most things that had to do with the internet that we didn't chase. And I think that's a big thing now with just chasing different things that give kids the wrong perception on a lot of things.
I like your answer, that wrong perception. And it's very hard in 2020 to get these kids to listen when you have so many social media outlets and they're seeing so much and they don't have any experience.
Right.
And it's almost like the blind leading the blind. And that's what is more phenomenal in my viewpoint for you to win conference and then go on and win national as a first-year coach. It seemed like you were able to make the staff, and I want to talk about your coaching staff also, and the players come to gel. That's almost, I don't believe in luck. I believe you make your luck by what you do, the work you put in. But that's a phenomenal feat. I think you most likely, I haven't done any research on your team, that you have some phenomenal players that have good work ethic and some character.
Right. Well, it took some time with just building everything because even though we started with returners and new guys and 16 new faces for me, we lost some players along the way, and we had some players that we had to get rid of just so we can get clean air in our system to be able to accomplish what we wanted to accomplish. I think there was a lot of turmoil, a lot of jealousy and hate. And
how important is that for a coach to, because that goes the same thing in business. How important is it, you use the phrase clean air,
right?
To get rid of the disruptions, and what would you say to other coaches? Should that be a really quick process once you identify what the problem is, or do you try to give them first, second, and third strikes?
I think for a coach, it's a drawn out process, just because you don't want to jump to conclusions, but at the same time, you want to make sure you have a good pulse of your team to be able to understand what's going on from the outside and the inside of it, the locker room of it, and the dorm, and just everyday life of the players. Because at the end of the day, they make up of your program, but you're still the replica of them, and with your team being the way it is a reflection of you. So there was different things that you have to figure out throughout the year to make sure that everything is going smoothly. But there's always a couple ins and outs, and like you said, first, second, third strikes, to where some things you can just only tolerate so long to figure out that's what's messing up your team from being a distraction, and obviously bumps in the road to get to where you're trying to go.
How important is it for a coach like yourself, or really any coach, to have a good administration behind them?
I think it's great. It's phenomenal because your administration is going to help push a lot of things behind the scenes to get to where you want to get to.
And a good AD.
Yes, and I have a luxury to have a good AD that was a former college coach, so he knows a lot of things. And we talk every day about basketball. We talk every day about different things that we should try, things we try to come together in. The input that I give him, he gives me, just so we can see a balance of things. And some things that he told me that I should try, which was a blessing in disguise, and it helped. And you always want people that have done it to give you feedback, to be able to help you just monitor a lot of things.
I want to talk about your dad a little bit. Was he a coach?
He was a coach.
And how much did that influence? Because I see him at quite a few of the high school games that I go to, and I know he's super proud of you. How much influence on what you do and how you do it? It seemed like you and Lucas mirror to a degree, because you come from the family, everybody in the family is balling.
Right. My dad was a former Central Blue Eagle. He played for Coach Bush. He coached me when I was younger. Obviously, it was recreation at the time. Then he kind of formally just got into it, getting some of the best players around. And then the age group that he had at the time was obviously older than me, so I was the youngest on the team, so I barely played. But he coached for a while. I would say about.
You wasn't the coach's pet. A lot of time the son is always starting. What you warm that bench?
Yeah, I had to learn the hard way. I didn't play much. I had to learn from the guys older than me. I had to be able to take the back seat, and I think it helped me just on many levels. Obviously, being patient, being a good teammate. Just growing as a basketball player, understanding what it took to be a leader, just watching guys that were obviously better than me at the time. And, he's been doing it for a while. He still does it now. He's coaching AAU. He was coaching Central JV team and helping with varsity a couple of years ago.
Tell me this, speaking of warming the bench, how do you feel your players accept your sixth man coming off the bench? How do they accept that and understand what their role is?
This generation is tough. I've been victim of it too, but at the same time, when you get to college, you got to accept a couple things. I had to accept it as a college basketball player too. My junior year, I started 33 games and we played 34 games, I want to say. And then my senior year, we had a transfer come in. I had to take a back seat, but there were some games that I was the leading scorer, but I was coming off the bench. So
with Blaze.
So I mean, it's tough to accept, but sometimes you
play your role.
The end goal is you want to win, and obviously, guys clock their minutes when they come out of the bench, and they look, okay, I went in at 14, I came out.
Is that what they do?
But it's just one of those things that you got to deal with. But at the same time, you got to micromanage their mind, make them stay focused, teach them, the reasons and whys and their attributes to be able to help us to win, why they come off the bench, who does what, who's better doing this. You just kind of got to keep them through it, coach them through it, and be able to help them understand what the reasons are in your philosophy.
How important was it for you to win the national championship, but how important for you to win your regional? All right, yeah, regional. Straighten me out. Straighten Mr. Nelson out. How important was it once you won your conference? Was that a springboard of confidence that your team received?
I think it was. I think it was a big deal because all year, our women's won 2 national championships, and they won one last year. So it was kind of in a way like when I got the job, everybody was like, you can never win there. It's a bad place to recruit players. It's not a basketball school. So in your mind, you're like, I'm going to prove everybody wrong. I think, you can win anywhere as long as you do whatever it takes to win. Our schedule was set up the way I thought that we were just going to blaze through it at one point just by looking on paper of who we had. We started out rough, really rough, to where I thought guys were just going to break. They were going to just fold. They didn't, think that we were going to have a winning season. We started losing games consecutively. And in my mind, I'm thinking, like, maybe this might be, the end. Maybe this might be, where we start looking forward into next year. But I talked to a lot of coaches that I coached under, and a lot of college coaches about just staying the course throughout the year, and just boosting our guys' confidence all year, telling them to have more swagger and being able to shoot the ball and just be loose, play freely at times but under control. And it helped push us throughout the year just by making plays for each other, playing for each other, and also just get rid of some of the guys throughout the year that helped our practices be more together and more energy and more playing for each other. You're always going to have those confidence battles and those competitive battles, but we just stayed the course.
Before we close, how do you feel now that this virus is taking place? How do you feel that's going to affect the sport and specifically your team?
Our season ended on a good note because a lot of teams can't say they won their last game. Obviously when you win a national championship, you won your last game. We were able to win a regional championship, which is big, not only for our guys but for our program.
And the school.
Yeah, and so, we end on a win, which is obviously great. But I don't know much history about the coronavirus. I don't, obviously I watch the news about it, but I think it hurts sports just because it's taken away not only from spring sports all across the nation, but it also hinders, the junior college level for players that are supposed to get to play in the national championship. But
what do you do in the summer?
Yeah, well, that's the players just, they're at a halt because now you got gym times where it can't be used. You got players just sitting at home. You got things that you have to, and kind of, I thought about this. It's kind of like going back to the old days to where there was no social media. But right now you can't get in gyms. You can't do certain things. So now you have to figure out how to make yourself get better different ways.
Watching them film and studying, becoming really a student of the game.
You do. Just by doing little things.
Right. They were talking about even the draft now.
Right.
And from my day when the draft came, it wasn't that big hoopla. You were at home waiting for the phone to ring.
Right.
And family and a few friends around you, and they're looking at that as the model that things are going to be. And as I spoke to you previously on the phone, I said, this has been a somewhat blessing for us because we're an internet company, and I think that a lot of sports in the future are going to be on cable or internet. People are not going to be in the arenas as much, and I think this is going to change the playing field and the dynamics for good. And
we were going to play the national championship, national tournament without fans, so they were only going to have capacity of 25 to 50 people. And still gonna play it, but nobody being there. So it's a different vibe of everything.
And wrapping up, what would you like to tell your fans and the KCK and Kansas City? Do you have any closing words?
I'd just like to thank, obviously, our student body and our fan base and just Kansas City, Kansas Community College for everything. Obviously, to all the upcoming coaches that are trying to live out their dream, just stay the course and keep believing in everything that you want to do and succeed in. Whenever an opportunity opens, if it pursues, attack everything with all force and have confidence enough that you can do anything you want to do.
All right, and in closing, we want to give two of our mantras for basketball, especially: go hard in the paint and play rough and ready.
This program is brought to you by the City of Fountains Coaches Association.